Okay, so Doctoral Networks is another funding scheme of the MSCA that could be interesting for non-academic organizations. We'll go quickly through what is MSCA Doctoral Network, the funding mechanisms, and the evaluation criteria. But to make a long story very short, what are doctoral networks? Doctoral networks are basically one consortium made up of universities, research centers, industries, SMEs, any legal entity that forms a consortium, which proposes an overall coherent research project, and the number of interlinked individual PhD research projects for PhD students that they will recruit in the future. Okay, that's in one slide. What are the doctoral networks? So one consortium builds an overall research project with interlinked individual PhD research project for PhD researchers that they will recruit later when the project is granted in the future. And the whole point of doctoral networks, you might ask, well, there's already funding for PhD students, right? National funding. So what's the point? The point is to do PhDs differently with a strong focus on future employability. So get out of the traditional, very highly academic focused technical training, but have a focus on transversal trainings. This is just a bunch of examples like IPR, entrepreneurship, translational research, public speaking, ethics, what have you. The point is that it's a network, so harnessing the network with having the PhD fellows exposed to different sectors, different countries through secondments. So there's a possibility to do secondments as well for doctoral networks, and the focus on their personal career and development plan for each of these PhD students, right? To see what they need, what they want, and what can be offered in terms of training or secondments to fulfill their needs. So the expected outcome of this program is to benefit both the doctoral candidates, so the PhD fellows, we call them the doctoral candidates. So it should benefit the fellows and the participating organizations as well, through advancing their research projects, transfer of knowledge, things like that. So the point is to train creative, entrepreneurial, innovative doctoral candidate, expose them to academic and non-academic sector. The whole point is the long-term employability of these fellows within and outside academia. So there is a strong focus on transferable skill, research skills, of course, but also transferable skills, intersectoral secondments, supervision, and so on. So an enhanced cooperation and knowledge transfers between sectors and disciplines. This is more in the benefit of participating organization. And of course, regular feedback and research results going into teaching and education. That's a bit of a more long-term goal that doesn't really need to go through doctoral networks to do that. So the point, the expected impact for Europe is to, of course, strengthen the human capital. It's all about human capital, basically, MSCAs in general, by training highly skilled doctoral candidates. Improve the attractiveness of the researchers' careers in Europe through better working and employment conditions offered to them. Enhance the knowledge circulation and talent circulation across the research and innovation landscape. You know, Marie Curie is about making people move. There's an element of mobility inside of it. Mobility between sectors, between disciplines, between countries. And one point I'd like to mention is the sustainable collaboration between academic and non-academic organizations that are part of the same network, and foster the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, amongst other things. So that's in a nutshell what Doctoral Networks is about. Now, you might want to know that there's actually 3 modes of implementation for Doctoral Networks. One is the Doctoral Networks that we call standard, so Doctoral Networks period. There's a Doctoral Networks industrial doctorates that might be of particularly interesting for you. And there's the joint doctorates. And basically, like all the other Marie Curie actions, it's divided in scientific panels, and all proposals from the same scientific panel compete against each other. So an industrial doctorate will compete against a joint doctorate and against a doctoral network. So there is no specific budget for each of these modes. In terms of size and features, basically, each project can request up to 360 person month for a standard doctoral network. And for industrial and joint doctorates, they can request 180 more. So they can go up to 540 person month. So how does it translate into? So basically, they set up a project and they will recruit the fellows later. And the fellows that they recruit later, they can give them a contract of anything between 3 and 36 months. Now, 99.9% of the cases, it's 36 months. So that would mean for a network of a standard doctoral network, they could recruit and hire up to 10 fellows for 36 months each. And for industrial doctorates, they can recruit 15 fellows for 36 months each, okay? The overall projects in themselves last 48 months. So you will see that basically that means that they have up to 12 months to recruit all the fellows, because all fellows, if they have a 36 months project and the overall program is 48 months, they have an additional year. They can go to secondments worldwide. So what could be interesting for you to know is that for standard doctoral networks, the secondments are limited to 1/3 of the fellowship duration. So for a 36 months fellowship, that would be 12 months. But for industrial doctorates, there is no limit on secondment. They can go on secondment for more than 1/3 of the fellowship duration. That might be interesting for you because one aspect of industrial doctorates is that each fellow needs to spend at least 50% of their time in the non-academic sector. So we're talking about time here, not budget, not anything else. The time they spend within these 36 months has to be at least 50%. Could be 60, 65, 51, not 49. And in that case, the academic and the non-academic organizations, they have to jointly supervise the fellow. And there is also the joint doctorates in which basically the overall goal is to it's basically to level the playing field between all the different universities in Europe. So basically awarding a joint doctorate or multiple doctorate to fellows. So it's basically to align the different PhD modalities between the different countries, basically. That might be a bit less interesting for you. It's more academic oriented. So network, but what is the minimum requirement for these networks? This network should be composed of at least 3 independent legal entities. And all of these entities have to be established in a different EU member state or associated country. And one of those 3 independent legal entities has to be from a member state. So this is a minimum requirement. On top of that, you can have many other countries, many other entities. So independent legal entity means that you cannot have, like, I don't know, if a company has 3 branches that are linked in 3 different countries, that's not good. It's not considered as 3 independent legal entities. All the beneficiaries, they have to recruit at least 1 doctoral candidate. They have to recruit them, host them, supervise them, okay? There's an element of geographical diversity, let's say, that says that no more than 40% of the budget should be allocated to beneficiaries in the same country, all right? And there is some other specific eligibility conditions for industrial and joint doctorates. I will not go back to this because it was already presented by my colleagues. What is the definition of non-academic sector? It's basically a definition by exclusion. Everything that's not academic is non-academic. And one thing that's important to notice, because sometimes it's not clear in people's mind, is that it's not about public or private, right? It's more the for-profit or not for-profit. You'll see that in the academic sector, a private non-profit research organization is academic for our purposes. Now I told you about beneficiaries. Basically, beneficiaries, as the name suggests, they benefit directly from funding. So they receive directly money from us to run the project. Now there is another type of participants which are called the associated partners. And it's a more flexible way to participate in the doctoral networks. And I would advise probably it's the easiest way to jump into the scheme to see how it goes and maybe in the future to become a beneficiary. But basically, these associated partners, they don't sign the grant agreement, they don't recruit, they're not allowed to recruit a fellow, they don't claim costs, but they can participate to the project. They can host secondments, for instance. They can propose some trainings in the project. And they are indirectly paid because there's one part of the budget for the project is research, training, and networking costs. And the consortia, they can decide to use this pot of money and redistribute it according to needs. So if there's an associated partner that hosts secondments, this partner will get money for the research of the fellow indirectly, right? The fellow would still be paid from the beneficiary he was recruited in, but when he's seconded to an associated partner, there can be money given to this associated partner internally within the consortium so that they organize training, host the fellows on secondments, and things like that. So it's a easier way, let's say, to participate. Now, of course, projects cannot recruit whoever. They have to be doctoral candidates, so they should not already have a doctoral degree. That's in the future when the project is granted and they start running the project. The recruitment has to be open, merit-based, and transparent. So that means that you do not recruit in your pot of own master's degree students. You have to recruit, put it on an international website, at least on your access, and you have to be able, this can be audited. You have to be able to prove that the person you recruited was the best for the job according to predefined criteria. They all must be enrolled in a doctoral program in at least one member state or associated country, but they can be of any nationality. The only thing is the mobility rule, which is the same as all the other Marie Curie actions, so I will not repeat them there. This table that looks very daunting is just a big summary of all the eligibility conditions. I will not go into the details here, but you can have a look at it. You will have the slides, so you can check it anytime you want. In terms of funding, unit cost, as always, so very easy, 1 person month of each doctoral candidate, so the one you will recruit later on. 1 month of one doctoral candidate that works for the project is 1 unit, okay? 100% reimbursement rate, and there's different categories. So the living allowance, mobility allowance, family allowance, if applicable, all of that goes to the fellow, and the rest to the right, so that's basically 2,800 euros per month. This goes to the institution for running the project. Again, as I said, this has to be seen not for one fellow in particular, but this is something that can be redistributed within the project because some research projects cost more than others. Some beneficiaries organize more trainings than others. There is a flexibility in the budget distribution for the institutional cost. The money that has to go to the researcher, all of it has to go to the fellow. That's for sure. In terms of evaluation criteria, basically, again, the 3 main criteria, except that the sub-criteria are a bit different because not all a PF is different from a staff exchange, which is different from a doctoral network, so different requirements. The proposal is longer, it's 30 pages long, longer than PF, and basically applicants, the proposals will be assessed solely based on this award criteria. In practical terms, how does it work? And I will show you very quickly later on. Everything is in the funding and tender portal. There's a search engine. If you type in DN and click search, you will get exactly what you need. For the moment, there is no open call, and the call was closed 15th of November, but there will be another call next year. And basically, you have a part A of the proposal that is just structured data, administrative data about the consortium, about a number of things, ethics questions. And the part B is really the core of the project proposal. It's the proposed research project that will be implemented. So there is a template for that. Inside the template, there are instructions, explanation, what needs to be filled in for each of the subsections. There's a guide for applicant as well. You can find that all inside. Now, what's in it for you? Well, what's in it for you is the advantage of having an industrial doctorate, for instance, is that you can, project can hire 5 more fellows compared to a standard doctoral network. So there is an incentive to push for industrial doctorates. In industrial doctorates, all the fellows that are hired, they will work at least 50% in the non-academic sector. Could be in different places, but at least 50% in the non-academic sector. Flexibilities that is now for Horizon Europe is that in the past, the intersectoral movement had to be between 2 different countries. Now it's no longer the case. Both the non-academic and academic can be from the same country. In terms of secondments, there is no limit on secondments for industrial doctorates. So what that means in practical terms for you is that you can participate to a doctoral network as an associated partner. So you don't have to sign the grant agreement. There's less preparatory aspects linked to the proposal. And you can have a fellow that's seconded to your organization for more than 50% of the time, still staying as an associated partner, right? So you don't need to be a beneficiary to participate in an ID and have a fellow seconded to you for more than 50% of the time. This was not the case last year. Last year, there was a ceiling of 1/3 of the time for secondment, so fellows could only be seconded for 12 months out of the 36. So they were missing 6 months for the 50% of time in the non-academic. So what that meant is that the non-academic institutions, they had to recruit the fellows. Now it is possible to just be involved as an associated partner and reap the full benefits of the project, basically. And that's it.